we learnt about working with class binding, how we can deal with class binding. So we call this as class binding by using the directive called ng class. One example, I showed you how we can bind the classes. Now we have another structural directive, attribute directive, ng style. In the attribute directives, three important directives are there: ng model, ng class, and ng style. ng model is for binding the data, and ng class is for binding any CSS class. ng style actually, so it is used to bind inline styles. It is used to bind inline styles. Inline style means inline styles are the styles defined for every element individually. You know already, inline style means these are defined for every element individually. For example, in HTML, you know that if we have any element, you can write style for that element. What is difference between style and class? So the difference between style is faster because it is native for that particular element. But problem is style is not reusable. So same set of effects I want for another element, then I cannot reuse them. The styles defined for this element are individual for that element. They will work only for that element. They are not accessible to others. So generally in CSS, we can write styles inline. we can write styles embedded, or we can write styles in external style sheet. Three techniques are there. So inline styles also we can change dynamically. That means inline styles advantage is, so inline styles are faster to apply, faster to render. They are faster to render, but not reusable. Inline styles are faster to render, but not reusable. You cannot reuse, access and use any location. So elements in page can use elements in page can use inline styles, which can change dynamically. Some elements can use inline styles that have to change dynamically. In such case, then what we have to do is you have to define styles. You have to define styles by using ng style attribute. By using ng style attribute, directive, it is ng style attribute directive. So the styles are defined for individual element and they can change dynamically. Usually some styles we want only for one element and we don't want to reuse them. In that case, we write them inline. We don't write in separate CSS classes and use them. Directly we write inline. Such inline styles also have to change dynamically. If style have to change dynamically, it is not a class. Then we have to bind that by using ng style. So technically what ng style will do is ng style uses a style object that comprises of effects to apply. ng style uses a style object that comprises of effects to apply. That means we have to define an object. So we need to define an object, style object. This style object contains, it's an any type, and it contains some effects. So these are nothing but it contains the styles, CSS effects. So that means attribute, name, and colon value, like that. So we will have these effects. That means we configure attribute name and we define some value. This is an style object. These attributes are nothing but they are style attributes. These values, they can change dynamically. We can supply different values into it. Now, here we are applying to any particular element, then we have to use ng style. ng style is equal to whatever the style object we have. The style object, whatever we have. These set of effects, these effects are applied to this element. What is advantage of defining an object and applying that object? That object can change its values dynamically. Whenever it changes the values, those effects will change. Earlier, how we used to write, earlier we have to write this style with some properties like this here. But we don't write with style, we write with ng style. What is advantage of this? It can change the styles dynamically. This object can change dynamically. Object can change dynamically. Let's see how it will apply. So when we use this, when we don't have separate classes, when we don't want to reuse, we want to apply only for one element, but that should change regularly. Only one element we are using, but it should change regularly. In such case, if change is requested, then you have to bind it dynamically. If change is not there, same effect it should have, then we will write directly. Only these binding techniques we use when we want the change in values. You want the change in values. So let's see how this style binding is used. One simple example in our project. So this is localhost 4200. This is the design we created yesterday. This is binding the class dynamically. We are applying a dark theme and a light theme displaying here. This is class binding. Here the effects are coming from a separate CSS class. So let's go to one simple component now here. I will add one component. So yeah. terminal. And here I will add a component called cd dot ng generate component style demo. Skip s. I am adding a component called style demo. And in this style demo component, let's keep that style demo component in startup first. In app module, I am defining that style demo. And here in index, I am using style demo. Here also we are defining style demo. Okay. Now style demo is working fine. Now it's working fine. Now I will go to the style demo component. Go to the style demo component. Yeah. Here we want to add some inline styles. I will do one thing here. Let's go to assets folder. We have an assets folder and keep one image here. In assets folder, I am copying a picture. So I have an image here. We will put an image. There is that images. Here we have an image flag. I will copy this and I will keep that image here. It's a GIF file. It is a GIF file. Let's go. And that GIF file is available. Now here we are going into components. In style demo, I am designing the HTML like this. In this HTML, I kept a div. And in this div, I am keeping the style height as 1000 pixels. This div height is 1000 pixels. And below that div, below the div, I am adding a image here. Image source is coming from assets and slash flag dot gif. So width is 50, height is 50, like this. These two are kept in another div, and here this is the parent div. In that there is another div, 1000 pixels height and image. What is this technique of writing like this? I have a div in the page. That div is 1000 pixels. 1000 pixels means usually any page size will be 700 pixels height maximum. If I give 1000 pixels means very lengthy. So there is an image below that div. That means whenever the page opens, you can never see that image until or unless you scroll down. So much you scroll down, you will see that image. That means by default, whenever I open page, this image is not visible directly. You can see that now. I opened that page, there is no image visible. The image is somewhere bottom screen. That means you see somewhere in the bottom screen. Left side bottom on the screen, it is present. You can't see until or unless you scroll down. The page is initially empty. Now, what we will do here, see. When user is moving the mouse on the page, that means the main div, I will use an event called mouse move. Mouse move is a general JavaScript event. In general JavaScript, you have learned so many events, mouse events, key events, so many are there. Mouse event, mouse move is an event which indicates the actions to perform when mouse pointer is moving. On mouse move, we will call a function called get position. And get position have to get the current mouse position, x-axis, y-axis, where it is present. That means how we can get the position. This event have position properties. Mouse events have mouse position properties like client X, client Y. So you have to send those event related properties into this method. Generally in JavaScript, event related properties are sent by using event, and object related properties are sent by using this. These are the two keywords used actually. But here in Angular, you have only one dollar event. This dollar event sends both event related information and object related information. Both details are sent. Now, in our next concept, event binding, we will learn detailedly about it. But anybody who knows minimum JavaScript, he knows that every event have two arguments. One is this, another one is event. But in jQuery, if you know jQuery also have only one argument, that is dollar event only. Here we use that by using dollar event. So dollar event, this sends information about the mouse event. So here, go to the TS file. In the TS file, we are expecting a method. So here we are expecting a method. The method name is get position. This method is expecting event arguments any type. It is expecting the event arguments any type. So get position will fire up when user is moving the mouse. When mouse is moving, this get position will fire up and it will send event related information to this method, which you can collect by using E. So here, now what I am doing is I am creating one object. The object name is, I will create an object that is style object. If you want, you can restrict the access, because this is class, you know everything about class. So public style object is what type? Any type. And in that, we will put some properties. What is the property? Property, I will give position as so fixed. Fixed position means it removes the element from the DOM. Means from the DOM order, the element is removed. You know, in CSS, we have static position, fixed position, absolute position. Fixed position will remove the element from the normal flow of document. After that, it needs top position. Top position, currently, I just defined top position, I just defined empty, nothing is there. Similarly, now left position, left, I will define empty, nothing is there. That means currently position is fixed and the top position empty, left position is empty. So when user is moving the mouse, I have to get the mouse related position. I have to get the mouse related position. Here you see now, here I have how to get the mouse related position. Through E, I can get it. Now what I will do is I will access this style object, this dot style object. I am accessing style object. Into the style object, into the style object, I am defining same properties we need to configure. What are the properties we have? One is position. Position is same, no change. It is fixed. And after that, we have top. What should be the top position? Top. Top position we will get from E is event argument. E dot client Y, that means Y axis position, plus PX is pixels. So that means E dot client Y gets the Y position. That means mouse Y axis position. So it will get the mouse Y axis position and it will apply to top. Similarly, we have left, we will keep as E dot client X plus pixels. That is left position is defined. Actually, this is simple concept. Generally, this is nothing for people who know JavaScript. They know already this general things. That means you have a page. Now in this page, suppose we have a mouse pointer. Suppose in the page, suppose we have a mouse pointer like this. That is the mouse pointer. Now what happens is we are accessing this pointer position, client X and client Y. They are accessing this pointer position. That mouse pointer have X-axis and Y-axis position. For example, its X-axis position is X-axis is 200 pixel and it Y-axis is suppose 100 pixel. That means these values are applied here. Y-axis position is applied. Y-axis position, X-axis position is applied to left. So, and Y-axis position is applied to top. Applied to top. That means we are accessing the mouse position and we are updating those details into this object, style object. And I want to apply this object to this image. That means now the image will use ng style and it is expecting a style object. We will access the style object, the style object. So this style object O capital, right? Style object. So this style object contains some set of styles. Those styles will be applied to that image. Those styles are not standard. They are changing when mouse pointer is changing. That means now here, when I'm moving the mouse, the image also moves along with the mouse. That means the image position is updated according to the mouse position. So we created one style object and we are updating its position, X-axis, Y-axis. So the image is attached to the mouse and when mouse moves, its new position is attached to the image. That means mouse position is attached to image means image will be always along with the mouse. So its position is being updated while you are moving. It's being updated. So you can print those values temporarily. Suppose, see here. If I want to print the values, I can store them in one reference. That means we have top and left positions are there. Suppose here I am axing x is equal to style object dot. We are accessing a property called left. Similarly, so just roughly I am giving here y is equal to style object dot top. That is the position here. That you see the position is updating there. The x position, y position is updating. That's not required, just I am showing you. So that means when you move the mouse, the position is updated. And that position is applied to image. Actually, where is image? Image is at the bottom of screen. And you are applying mouse position to image, means image will come out from there and it will be along with the mouse. And while moving, you are affected. Why you are doing this with NG style? Why not with NG class? Why we need NG class? Because this should work only for image. I don't want to use this anywhere else. Then writing in a class, using that class is always a burden to page, because already we know that if you use external files, then the number of requests for page will increase. So unnecessarily, we don't go with classes. We do that only when we need reusability among the styles. So this is inline styles, binded dynamically and defined dynamically. So that is called, people also call this as style binding. Here only one simple point. The point is you create a style object and apply that style object. That style object contains some effects which will be changing according to situation. That means this image is not having a constant style. That style will be changing. You can apply through class also, but if it is only for one element and we don't have a separate CSS file to maintain for this, then you can better go with this technique, right? This is actually the concept of NG style. So example I will give for the classroom. Here very simple, we have style binding, style demo dot component dot ts. In style demo component ts, I will copy this. Okay, we have another style demo dot component dot html. In that, this is the design. I will just copy that here. This is the example of style binding. So finally, the directives related summary. So the summary about directives concept. Summary about Angular directives related concept. What are that? We learned about 3 important directives. Component directives, we have structural directives, and we have attribute directives. These are the 3 types of directives. And we learned about data binding. We learned about one-way binding. We learned about two-way binding. We learned about how MVC works, how MVVM framework works here in this Angular environment. We learned about class binding. We learned about style binding. Style binding. These are the options. One more, in data binding, we learned about interpolation. Interpolation is one way binding technique. We have seen that, right? Double parenthesis we have to use. These are all the topics we discussed under the concept of directives. How to create directives, how do we configure the directives and use them. So component, structural, and attribute. And in component directives, we create a component and we access and use it. In structural directives, we have ng if, we have ng if, we have ng switch, we have ng for. These are the structural directives. Attribute directives, we have ng model, ng model. So we have ng class, and we have ng style. These are the options. These are the options. So this is the binding, the class binding. Now, important, once we are aware of these things, now we can go into another concept, angular event binding. Angular event binding. Still components not finished. After angular event binding, 1 second. Okay. So component is not yet finished because we will learn about one more concept. After learning event binding, we will learn, because this event binding is also related to component. In Angular components, two more important topics we have. We till now created our own components, means we designed all the components. In the beginning, I showed you a Netflix page, header, footer, all our own components. But Angular have third-party components also. Third-party components. Just like Bootstrap, Angular have third-party components. Those components will make presentation, interaction more effective. But you can't use them until or unless you are aware of event binding and component lifecycle. Once you know component life cycle and event binding, then you can use third-party components. Those third-party components are called as Angular materials. We call them Angular materials. So we can use them only after understanding this event binding. These are all under one topic, components. Under components, we are discussing data binding, style binding, class binding, and one more concept is event binding. So for people who know already JavaScript, no need to explain much about event, because Angular is not having any new concept. Angular uses everything same as JavaScript. Only few additional points you have to know here that I will tell you. Actually, what is event? Technically, what is event in JavaScript? Actually, event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. Event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. Actually, event follows a software design pattern called observer. It follows a software design pattern called observer. So technically, this is general definition you might have learned in your JavaScript also. That event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. That is official definition. And event follows a software design pattern called observer. Actually, observer is a communication pattern. Observer is a communication pattern. In software design patterns, observer comes under communication pattern. Now, this concept is simple actually. What is event and how the event works? I will just explain a basic point about this. Because its concept is same as JavaScript only. Its concept is same as JavaScript. So here, for example, we have insert click is a method in class. In class, here we write methods in the class. And here we have button. And when button is clicked, now events in Angular are binded in parentheses like click. In general, we use on click like this. But here we use click. Okay. Now this is insert click. Generally, what people think in general is they think that on button click, we are calling a function called insert click. That means on button click, we are calling a function called insert click. No, this is not calling function. This is not calling function. That is not calling function. Actually, this is function pointer. This is function pointer. It is not calling the function. It is pointing towards the function. That means we are not calling the function. That means it is not in this way. It is not in this way. It is this way. That means we are not calling the function, we are pointing towards the function. So event is a function pointer, is a function pointer. Actually, see, that is general thing actually. See, suppose for because already in JavaScript, you know all this. People who are not completely aware, I will show you this point. See, suppose in the script, and we have a button here. Suppose this is HTML page. We have a button, and on click is equal to insert click. And here we have insert. Is there any function by name insert click? No, there is no function by name insert click. If this is function calling, then it should show error saying that there is no insert click. Observe carefully when I run this page. And here you see in the inspect, and you observe here in the console, we don't have any error. If you are calling a function which is not there, then it should show error. So it is not showing any error, but observe carefully. When I click insert button, when I click it, then it will show an error saying that insert click not defined. That means by understanding this concept, what you noticed here. So event is not calling the function. It is not calling the function. It is pointing towards the function. It is pointing towards the function. So it is a function pointer. It's a function pointer. And here, this is called subscriber. Subscriber contains the actions to perform. What functionality to perform, that is defined in subscriber. Here method is a subscriber. That means it defines what actions to perform. And when the actions need to be performed, that is defined by this. This is called sender. So sender sends a notification to the subscriber, and subscriber will perform the functionality. So when that functionality to perform, that is notified by sender. Sender will tell that on button click, you do this work. Subscriber will perform that functionality. That is the difference, the point, sender and subscriber. Sender sends the notification and subscriber handles. That means the event follows this software design pattern is called as which pattern? It is called as an observer pattern. So observer is a communication pattern. Here two things will be there. One is subscriber defines actions to perform. Subscriber defines actions to perform, and sender notifies the changes. Sender notifies the changes. So that is actually the concept of sender and subscriber. So event follows this technique actually. And in general, Angular uses all JavaScript events. Angular uses all JavaScript events binded by using all JavaScript events binded by using an empty parenthesis. By using an empty parenthesis, they are binded by using an empty parenthesis. Angular uses all JavaScript events binded by using empty parenthesis. So that means here, so no new events, no new events. That means all JavaScript events are same used exactly here. Here, some native events are there, I will tell you. That means no new events actually required. No new events required. However, Angular Angular provides few native events. Few native events. Angular provides some native events designed specially for Angular. They will do some extra work, but not required. Without using those native events also, we can do it. So that's the reason you don't need to know about those native events until or unless you need them badly. You can use all JavaScript events only. So Angular uses all JavaScript events in the same way. So events are classified into various categories. You know that already in JavaScript. You might have learned we have keyboard events, we have mouse mouse events, like we have clipboard events. Clipboard events means cut, copy, paste, and all these options are there. We have focus events. Focus and blur comes under these focus events. We have timer events. Timer events means set timeout, set interval, clear time. So we have various types of button events. Button events means on click, on DBL click, on context menu. Context menu means right click. All these comes under button events. Now recently, people are using for mobile touch screens. You have touch events. On touch start, on touch end, like new touch events are present here. I will show you them. So it's no need to work with all these events in Angular. This is where time is saved for the people who are learning Angular. That's the reason we say for Angular, JavaScript is mandatory. Without that, you cannot come to Angular, because these are all not required to discuss here. Only the changes we have to discuss, because keyboard events, how they are used, mouse events, how they are used. We know in JavaScript here also same. Only the approach we learned here. Some changes I will tell you now. Approach means we write a method in TS file and we call the method from point towards the method by using event binding technique here. So only the new thing you have to know is, so that means what's new in events. You have to understand what new in events of Angular, so that you have to notice. So notice, when you are learning Angular, came from the background of JavaScript, what new things you have to know is, so many are there. One is, so what's new in Angular is, number one, here Angular uses only one default event argument, default event argument. That is what? $event, which just now I explained. Default event argument. Actually, in JavaScript, see, in a JavaScript, we write like this. So button on click is equal to some insert click. Into that we pass this and event. Two arguments are passed here. But in Angular we define like this: button, we have a click and insert click. Into this one default argument, what is it? Event. Event. That is only one event argument. Now second point is, you can access object and event properties with the dollar event reference. With dollar event reference, we can access object and event properties. How? We can use e dot client x, e dot client y, e dot key code, so e dot char code, e dot shift key. All these comes under event properties. This all comes under the category of events. That means these are event related properties. These all under the category of event properties. These are all event properties. Event related properties are accessible like this. Object properties we have to access like this: e dot target dot name, e dot target dot id, e dot target dot value, etc. All such things we have to access. These are not event related properties. These are object related properties. These are object properties. Earlier we have two separate parameters, but now we have only one. So that is, through target we access object properties, and through E directly we access the event properties. I will show you that point here actually. Suppose you see here, this is general HTML. This button is having ID as btn insert. Here we are writing a function insert click. On insert click, so we are sending here this and event, two arguments. Here we have to collect obj and some e. Now document dot write temporarily. Through I can access here id, button id. How to access button id? Through obj dot id we can access. But if I want to access client exposition, to access exposition we have to define event argument e dot client x. That means we need two references, one for object properties, another for event. This is how in general it works. When I click insert, it will get those two, one for object, another for event. We have to handle that. But the same in Angular, how it works. So in Angular how it works, here I am accessing these are event related properties. You see here, these are event related properties. E dot client x, client y, these are event related. Let me put a button here. We will write a button, insert click. Okay, now here how many parameters? Only one. So e, any type. Into that you can pass all. So here I will put a button temporarily. I will put a button here. Close. Temporarily, I am keeping a button here. So let's keep a button here. And let's say insert. And here it is having an ID as btn insert. And we have click. So it will point by using insert click. And into that event argument is dollar event. Now you see here, when I click on that insert button, then it gets that position and display the position. I will remove that here. This image positions we will change. Okay, here we haven't written anything. Na? We will do one thing. What we have to do? So document dot write temporarily. Document dot write. How to get the position? X position. To get the X position, we have to use E dot client X. Okay. In the next line, we want to get the ID. ID we can get that by using E dot target dot ID. Like this, we need to configure. So we are defining that and specifying. Now I will remove this navigation and other things because it is navigating and working with those options. I am not defining them. So here I click on insert, it gets the position and display. So that means it is going to handle that. Here I click at insert at this position and it will get the details and display. This is in Angular. So how it is different in Angular and JavaScript. In JavaScript, we have two default event arguments, and in Angular, you have only one. But how to access event related information? So client X, client Y. How to access means E. How to access object related information? Target. All the other options are same. There is no change. All events are same. There is no difference. Key events, mouse events, everything we use in a similar way. In different examples, we will see.